Good evening, everybody. Hey, thanks for being patient. Thanks for waiting. I've got Lord Callous here on a Zoom meeting, and we've got him in the screen, so I hope that you'll be able to hear him. We're going to talk about the expanded universe this evening, and I am involved with different kind of Facebook groups, Twitter groups, and social media things, and I constantly see this question that says, hey, I've watched the movies. I'm interested in the expanded universe. Where should I start? And, it's a bit of a loaded question because if you're coming at this, what's the part of Star Wars that you like? What's the part that you enjoy? And if you're coming at it just from this great big open, where should I start? Well, it could be anywhere. So I thought that we'd get Lord Callous on here this evening, and we would talk about the expanded universe. We'd talk about what we love about Star Wars, what we may, the parts that we may not love, and the expanded universe, where folks can get engaged, the things they might enjoy, and all of that. So let us know. Make sure that you can hear me here in the. Hey, yeah, looks like people are. Lord Callous, why don't you introduce yourself? We'll make sure that your audio is good and people can hear you.
Hey, how are you? Lord Callous here over at Lord Callous TV. And, I just love all things Star Wars. So I do news, reviews, talk theories, gaming even. Yeah,
Wonderful.
appreciate you having me. I know we've been trying to set this up since the last show on Den of Nerds Live with Josh.
Yeah, we have, and I've been desperately trying to get this set up, but work kind of cropped up, and then our schedules didn't fit together, and we just couldn't get things kind of lined up. So I'm thrilled to death to have you here this evening, and I know we've got a lot of folks joining in. Second Street Marvel, Trinity's here. Trinity's a huge fan of yours, and he's excited about this. And we've got a bunch of other folks. I've got a brand new subscriber, Pool of Zenda. We've had a nice exchange today. And here's the thing about Star Wars fans. And one reason I really, really wanted to get you on after hearing you on Josh's channel with the Den of Nerds. Um, you come at this from a different perspective on the sequel trilogy than I do, from what I understand. I am a huge sequel trilogy fan. I love all of it, all three movies, and Rise of Skywalker didn't go the way I wanted it to, but the way that it went is still satisfying to me. So I enjoy watching it, rewatching it, all of it. And from what I understand, you don't necessarily have those same opinions, right?
No, I mean, I'm not, I don't fault anyone for their opinion. I love Star Wars. I just wasn't a fan of the direction that Rian Johnson took The Last Jedi and then moving forward. I enjoyed The Force Awakens because it was just, it'd been so long. We hadn't been in universe for 30 years, so it was great to get back into the universe on screen. And I love the way that it looked like it was going. And so it was a thrill ride for me, The Force Awakens, but, the anticipation for what was going to happen didn't come to fruition on or with The Last Jedi. So that was sort of the what was off-putting for me, and ultimately the way that they killed Luke Skywalker.
Well, and I've been engaged with folks who dislike The Last Jedi a lot, and over the last couple of years, since we've been having this debate in the fandom, and there's a divide, there's a schism in the fandom, and one big reason I wanted to talk to you is because we can still be friends.
Absolutely.
Right? And
yeah, I'll never fault anybody for
when I saw you on the Den of Nerds, I was like, this guy is a guy that I need to talk to, and so that people who follow me know that I love these movies, and for a while I subscribed to Thor Skywalker. I was one of his supporters, and in part of his Discord group, and that's when I really started interacting with folks, trying to understand what it was about the Last Jedi that put them off so much.
Yeah.
And at first, it was a lot of things, and then
Yeah.
over time, people start to get more forgiving of certain parts, and other parts that kind of still can't get past. And what I have found in discussion is that the Luke Skywalker treatment is the thing
Yeah.
that's the straw that broke the camel's back, or the unforgivable sin, right?
Absolutely.
The-
For me,
right.
that's what it was. I mean, there are other nitpicky things that I have about the lore in general, but um, as far as what made me, or what makes me just um, just not enjoy that movie is what happened with Luke Skywalker. I mean, because so this is my thought process, and not to derail it, but
That's
when
good.
I'm looking at the Skywalker saga as a whole, right? And so we have the original trilogy, right? That's Luke Skywalker's story, right?
Right.
And then we have the prequels, which is Anakin Skywalker's story. So this is the two trilogies that we have so far that are still following the Skywalker saga. And then as we move into this sequel trilogy, in my opinion, I think that Rey should have been a Skywalker simply for that reason. We had the son, we had the father, we should have had the grandchild in it to close it out, in my opinion. And granted, I know people say that Kylo was a Skywalker in blood. In truth, yes, he was, but his last name was Solo. This is the Skywalker saga. I'm looking for Luke Skywalker's heir.
Right, right,
You know what I mean?
and that's absolutely fair. And maybe one day we'll go into a deeper dive on the rise of Skywalker, and maybe how that could have been more fulfilling, and certainly with the Last Jedi as well. But this is really thank you for taking the time to kind of point those things out, because people can really get the idea, and if they followed you at all, they know where you're coming from. In just the introduction to me. So we've got folks here tonight that have never seen me before, but they're here because they're huge fans of Lord Callous, and that is fantastic. And I thank you guys for coming over, right?
Absolutely.
But I've been a defender of the sequels. I am not a prequel fan. The prequels I've come more to terms with over time.
Okay.
I've certainly for me the Clone Wars animated series helped heal a lot of my issues, but there are still things about the prequel trilogy that make me crazy, and because I go back to the original trilogy, and some of the things in the prequel trilogy I still see as breaking the the original trilogy. And for me, the way that I view it, I see inconsistencies that don't line up, and they just make me crazy. And it makes it worse because George Lucas is the guy who did all of it.
Yeah.
and, and if you can't make A connect to B, or in this case, maybe B connect to A, which is however you want to look at that, that just shows me that you don't care so much about the through line. And some of these things just make, I still don't really truly understand. And there are some things that could be changed in the
Mhm.
prequel trilogy that would make me much happier, right?
Yeah.
But be that what it is, here we are, and
Yeah.
I'm still a huge fan of Star Wars, and I can go back and watch a prequel trilogy, and
I love the
uh,
prequel.
that's
You
great.
see, I love the prequel.
Oh, that,
Because I
that's great. Go ahead.
Skywalker, and so it's Anakin's story, and so that's what that's what does it for me. My favorite in the entire saga is actually Revenge of the Sith, and then followed by Empire Strikes Back. I know that's blasphemy in some cases, but that's my that's actually my favorite one. Is Revenge of the Sith.
You know, that's common. Where a big portion of the fandom, Revenge of the Sith, is the movie that for them is the
Yeah.
best. For me, there are a couple of things about Revenge of the Sith that irritate me, and this is just me. And I had a bit of a talk earlier with Pool of Zinda here. We've kind of gone back and forth on one of my videos, um, and it has to do with the politics that are in Star Wars. And for folks that haven't followed all the way along, but I was active duty U.S. Army when prequels were released. Oh, thank you. But at the time when Revenge of the Sith came out, Anakin spews that line to Obi-Wan: "If you're not with me, then you're against me,
You're my
and
enemy.
you're my enemy." Yeah. Well,
Only
George,
Sith deal in absolute.
and then only Sith that deal in absolutes. Absolutely. But that's a quote, almost word for word, of George W. Bush. Right? He was my president when I was in active duty Army. And I was active duty during the Gulf War. And that's one of the things he said when he was trying to build a coalition and bring other nations in to support troops and bring more troops into the war. He said, if you're not with us, then you're with the terrorists. And George Bush was quoted by Anakin as a Sith, right? And then they, in a very negative light. And Obi-Wan says, then only Sith deal in absolutes. That was a direct comment to George Bush, and when I saw it, right? And it made me mad, right? I was like, you son of a gun, right?
I mean, I do see that, but I mean, so did you read the novelization at all?
I have not, and we're gonna get there. So, but that's just for me. Those are kind of things that run through the prequels that bother me. And now we talk about the novelizations. This is good, and I'm glad you brought it up, and we can maybe start there. People often ask me, or I see asked, where should I'm interested in reading a novel. Where should I start? And that's the question that I ask is, well, what's your favorite Star Wars, right? If your favorite Star Wars is Revenge of the Sith, well, there's a novelization of that movie,
and it's awesome.
So go ahead, tell me about the novelization.
Well, I mean, the
of Revenge of Sith.
novelization, it just, and back then like it was so long ago, but back then what was it, 2005, they actually released the novelization before the movie, and now with the new movies, they've actually flip-flopped it. And I think that that was because they realized that when those that read the novelizations, you will be spoiled going after you read the novelization and then go into the movie, because they have the opportunity with the novelization to express what they absolutely want to express that has to be sort of truncated in the movies. And so when, for example, just the scene when Mace Windu comes into the Senate chamber to arrest Sidious. I mean, when the reading of that scene is so much different. I mean, you have the insight into what every Jedi was thinking as or before Sidious actually killed them.
Yeah.
And then you actually get to see more of the influence and the manipulation that Sidious had with Anakin, even with Anakin's relationship to Obi-Wan, where he was manipulating him into thinking that there was sort of, he was trying to come in between Anakin and Padme, sowing that seed of jealousy. I mean, it was, if you ever have the opportunity to read that novelization, it is one of the better ones. But the first thing that I would say is, what time period are you more or most interested in?
Yeah.
Because that would make the difference. And also, what are you interested in? Because there's some people who don't necessarily, like me, I'm a big fan of Jedi, Sith, and Mandalorian lore. So that's where I want to dive in, and that makes a difference, because I'm not necessarily so interested in the X-Wing series, right?
Right.
Or because that's just not where my heart lies. Though it is interesting, and though I will read it, I want to know Darth Bane. I want to know Plagueis. I want to know Sidious. I want to know about the Jedi. That's where my heart is, and so that would make the difference. Where I would say for them to begin their journey, if you will.
I completely agree with you, and I want to address some of the chat here. Spencer asked, "Are the novelizations of movies worth reading?" And I want to echo what you just said. Yes, I have read the novelizations for the sequel movies, for example, being a sequel fan, and they brought a lot to those movies that they just didn't have time to expand on. There's a scene in The Last Jedi, for example, and again, I know people hate The Last Jedi, but this is just an example that where Rey and Kylo are having the Force Skype kind of thing, right? So Kylo accesses Rey, and the first thing that he sees her in her mind is she's thinking about Finn. Well, there's no way in the movie to know that when they connected, she was thinking about Finn, right? That just can't be played out. But when you see it in the book, when you hear it in the novelization, you get those things.
Yeah.
And that's, let me kind of dismiss that. So, but there's all kinds of examples of that kind of thing. In The Rise of Skywalker, there's content in there, especially at the end. So there's a lot of discussion about, well, why did Rey go back to live on Tatooine? Well, she didn't go back there to live. Well, you don't know that in the movie. You can kind of maybe deduce, like, okay, she's just here visiting. But in the book, you get to know, sort of where she's headed. It doesn't explicitly say, this is where she's going to live, but she's only stopping at Tatooine for a little bit. So are the novelizations worth reading? Absolutely. And if you have an interest in those, whatever the novel is or the movie is that you love, but I want to agree with you as well on the era. What era are you most interested in? Because the novels around that era are fantastic. There are a lot of really good ones. And just for example, and this perhaps you've spent some time here as well, around the Clone War era and just before, there's a great book, novel, Master and Apprentice.
Yeah.
That novel is fantastic. You get some background about Qui-Gon Jinn and in his training of Obi-Wan. And if you like the prequels and you like the Clone Wars animated series, I highly, highly, highly recommend Master and Apprentice, because there you get a little bit of knowledge about the Jedi prophecies and Qui-Gon's relationship to them, his fascination with them, and you see that expanded. You also kind of get some of the stuff where Obi-Wan was frustrated with Qui-Gon's teaching and what was involved with that and why. Really good stuff.
And I would, to echo what you're saying, and this is, I know it's canon now, but I kind of call it new canon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that book was great, and I read that book coming off of Dooku Jedi Lost. So there's a lot of correlation between the two, and you get to see them. And that was the one thing that I do appreciate, is that they are trying to make it the continuity. They are trying to keep that continuity there. So when you go from novelization to novelization, you will see the connections, and you will see it intertwine. So I guess the trilogy wasn't necessarily the best representation of that, but when you read the books like Jedi Lost, when you read Sith Lords, when you read what's the name of the one with A New Dawn, the New Thrawn trilogy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those are all they're all great books, and I see somebody saying Claudia Gray. Absolutely. I mean, she's considered more of a young adult novelist, but her writing is top notch. She's fantastic, and so that's one of the reasons. She's one of the reasons why I'm excited about going forward. What's that? What is it? Lost Stars. I mean,
Oh,
Lost
Lost
Stars
Stars.
is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah,
So
really good.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's fantastic. So there, when you dive into those to the books, you get a different sense of Star Wars than you do. At least I do from the movies.
that's a good point. I want to address Drew's reviews. Thanks for coming here this evening, and I want to talk to you just a little bit here too, because you said that you're not a strong reader, but good on others. I'm not a strong reader either. As a young man, right, or as a kid, I didn't read any Star Wars novels. I started reading in that dry period between the original trilogy and the prequels. There was a long period of time, folks. If you were old enough to live through that, there was a long period of time where it was very dry. The only other content we have were things like the Ewok animated series or the Droids animated series. And let me tell you, friends, not great. Right? Those are not great. But my first introduction to novels was with Timothy Zahn's trilogy. And the
Yeah,
reason I read that is because I heard that that was the sequel to the original trilogy. And it tells you what happens afterwards, right? And
yeah,
so for like 20 years, more than 20 years, that was my sequel trilogy. In my
yeah.
head, that was as close to canon, right? Like we knew it wasn't canon.
It's such a. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No,
it's such a great trilogy, and it's a shame. I mean, they've borrowed some of the things from it, but we get Mara Jade, we got Sabayoth in there, we get Thrawn. I mean, it's just a great trilogy, and not to take away from the new one, because the new one is pretty good too. His new trilogy.
yeah,
Um, we're still waiting on what Ascension, right? But
yeah,
those that first the first Thrawn trilogy was amazing.
yeah. It's what I had. Drunk 3PO, thanks for coming. Oh, yes, and you are correct in knowing you're on the naughty list. I know who you are, right? I have followed you and I'm familiar with your content. And every now
One
and
of
then
my
I'll peek in.
dark council brothers.
Yeah, yeah. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, but he's on the
Very.
dark. Yeah, definitely on the dark side. And dude, you're correct in assuming you're on the naughty list. That's the way it is. So no, but so I wanted to build on it. So for like over 20 years, that was my canon, right? And then I got some friends recommended me some things from ancient Sith lore. So I read those Lost Tribe of the Sith novels. I knew that
Yes.
would make you happy. So I read those,
Yes.
but those are old too, right? So at this point, they're pretty old. Um, and then I went dry for a long time because I am not a big reader. And what I have found that got me really engaged is the public library system has audiobooks that you can listen to for free.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so uh, on a whim, I went and I checked out the audiobooks there. And since then, I've gone through like 30 uh, novels through the audiobooks that are free. And you
Yeah.
can listen to those while you're mowing the lawn, while you're driving to work, while you're having your lunch. It's a wonderful way to consume Star Wars if you're just not an avid
Absolutely.
reader. And I'd highly encourage you to check out that. It's free. And so it doesn't cost you nothing to try it. It doesn't cost anything to listen to a book, and hopefully you get hooked like I did, and you just start consuming them one after another, right?
Absolutely. I do both. So I keep the hardcovers and as well as the audiobooks because I'm a district manager, so I got a lot of windshield time. So
Yeah.
I listen to the audiobooks all the time, and yeah, I mean it's great, especially when you get the unabridged. Always go for the
Oh,
unabridged. I don't remember who it was that was asking, but go for the unabridged so that they don't chop anything out, and it's actually them reading the book on, and you just listen to it, and they have all of the sound effects, they've got all of the music. It's immersive as a book, and you can, as you're driving or as you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, you visualize everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's a great way to consume.
And I see Gray here. Gray, thanks for coming. Yeah, the Audible app. You can also check them out from the public library. So that's perfect. So let me ask, what's the last thing that you've read? What's the most recent book that you've read?
The most recent was well, I just pull it up here on Audible, because I've been, you've got it on there that I've EU, so that was primarily my what I was consuming. But I've been trying to get more of the new canon under my belt. I think the last one that I read was Force Collector, but I read them all actually in order. So yeah, and then the last one that I'm waiting on now is Ascension.
Yep, me too.
Yeah,
I'm on the waiting list.
Yeah, the only thing that's really kind of concerning is that they're going backwards with that, and I was hoping that they would go forward, because I want to see more. So the only reason that I can think that they would do that they would choose to go back when Thrawn was younger as opposed to going ahead of time, is because it may influence some of the plans that they have for either TV or the movies coming up, and they don't necessarily want to touch on that because it's going to tell us whether or not Thrawn has survived. Because the last time we see Thrawn is in Rebels, when he's going off with Ezra into hyperspace. So we don't know at this point the outcome of Thrawn. So if they were to, if Ascension was going into the future, then it might upset whatever plans that they have. So that's the only reason that I can think of that they would choose to give us a young Thrawn as opposed to continuing the story.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this search for Ezra Bridger, the rumors of that series coming out, both animated and perhaps live action, is where they're going with that story. And I wanted to just touch base too. That Thrawn trilogy set me up real bad for Rise of Skywalker. Because the Chiss have a name for Force users that can sense through hyperspace, right? These hyperspace lanes, and they called them Skywalkers. So I was absolutely convinced that was going to play into Rise of Skywalker, and it was going to have to do with this skipping, right? And I thought, well, here you go. Well, they did do skipping, but they didn't pull in the Chiss part of it, and I was like, you son of a gun. All right.
That was actually, I mean, I really enjoyed that from the new novels. That aspect of the Force with just those Chiss, that that was just that they're young, that when they mature at the age of 14 and they lose their Force sensitivity. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling for anybody, but the some of the lore in the new Thrawn trilogy is awesome with respect to the Force, and they, just like you said, yes, they gave us that, and it was kind of like, okay. They renamed, if you remember in the second one, they renamed, because Vader was doing the Force thing.
Yes.
Right? He was Force navigating, and they called it Second Sight.
Yes.
Right? Where we used to just think it was just the feeling that they had, or it was just them in touch with the cosmic force, but they actually call it now Second Sight. So I thought that was also pretty
I did too, and I actually thought they might tie back into Shmi being a Chiss descendant, because that's where the Skywalker name came from, right?
Yeah.
That maybe her parents were mixed lineage, and that one of them was a Chiss descendant, right? Maybe a female married to a human, and she inherited then, when she was young, some Force sensitivity, who then, when Palpatine messed around, had this child, right? So I thought, wow, we've got this set up perfectly. So yeah, there's some great things. We don't know that maybe that still won't happen, but those are the kind of things that these novels can do for you as a fan,
Exactly.
right?
And
They
that
can.
was what I was hoping the fourth one would do, would answer some of those questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. The last book I read was Lords of the Sith. I finished it over the
I actually
weekend.
did a review on that one.
The first 2/3 of that book I thought were fantastic, but I told a good friend of mine, as soon as Vader and the Emperor hit the ground, um, the rest of the book was pretty much predictable for me. But
Yeah.
if and again, I'm not. I hope we're not ruining anything for anybody. And I saw Gray, you're completely caught up, but um, we want to encourage folks who maybe you haven't stepped a toe in. It'll be a good way to do it, and so I really enjoyed that. If I were to ask you what your least favorite novel or book that you've read, or maybe you just quit because you couldn't take it anymore, what does anything come to mind?
Yeah, actually, what's the name of Queen's? The first one that they released with um, for Padme. I got through half of it, and then I'm like, I'll just come back to it. What's the name of it? It's got her face.
Yeah, is that the Queen's Shadow one? No.
Not Queen's Peril. So yeah, I think you're right. Queen's Shadow,
Yeah.
right?
I see. I have to go back and look because like.
I actually have it, but I was getting it's on my show.
Okay.
That one I don't have audio.
Yeah.
That one I actually have.
Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston. I think that's the one you're talking about. Not
Yeah, she's got her full garb on.
right,
And
right.
it was the first one that they released.
I'm pretty sure that's
of
it.
that series.
Yeah,
Not the blue. It's the orange and red cover.
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's it.
That's the one. I got through half of it, and it was just too slow for me. It was interesting. I liked her interactions and Anakin's interactions with the handmaidens, because that actually tied in well with these new comics that they have.
Oh,
Yeah. So with the new Vader comics, because
Yeah.
you're able to see the new handmaid. I mean, not new handmaidens, but the handmaidens more in depth, and how they call themselves the Amidalans, and
yeah,
just what was left behind. So I like that they gave us that, the start of that, or the beginning of that we didn't get to see necessarily in between. What time period was that? Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Attack the Clones.
Right?
Yeah, and I've actually seen there's a little bit of motion on folks wanting to see Keira Knightley go back to that role and have a show with Keira Knightley as one of those handmaidens, or like what happened afterwards? Where is she now? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm
Have
fine
you
with.
read any of the comics? Because they kind of touch on that in the new Vader series, where that's all he's doing right now. He's actually going back. Originally his intention was to figure out who made Luke so weak, and he kind of got sidetracked or taken in this direction, and now he's following up on Padme, and they give you Typho, they give you all of the handmaidens. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, the least favorite one was one of the Galaxy's Edge books. One of them is quite good. The Black Spire by Delilah Dawson.
Yeah.
But Delilah is such a good writer. She wrote a really good story there. And if you followed with Phasma, Phasma it's a great book.
I just like her as a writer.
Well, me too. But you've got Cardinal from the Phasma books. And then that carries on into the other book that she wrote. She carries that Cardinal figure forward. And both of those books tie together really, really well. But there's another Galaxy's Edge book. It's A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordova.
Yeah.
Not for me. It wasn't written for me. It's a bit of a romance novel. And if you look at Zoraida, her background is writing romance novels. And that's what it is. It's a romance novel. Young lovers and all the relationship kind of stuff. Look, I'm a father of 2 daughters, and I've dealt with it in real life, having to listen to that drama. The book, just not enough Star Wars for me. and too much romance and drama around all. I'm upset because he looked at another girl, kind of thing. Not my,
Yeah.
not my cup of tea. but, that's the nice thing too about novels is that there's a little bit for everybody.
Yeah.
And to bring in audiences that maybe are romance novel fans, well, you may want to start with that Crash of Fate.
Yeah.
It's just no, right? I
Yeah.
just,
It's just
just
not. I hear you, man. I hear
I
you.
just can't do it. Um,
Yeah.
I also find it very interesting. We've heard some rumors recently about maybe uh, 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 the the Lucasfilm wanting to expand upon Ben Solo's story and Kylo Ren's story, right?
Mm.
Um, and are they or are they not in talks with Adam Driver? That's neither here nor there. But there is the young Kylo Ren comic book series, right?
Yeah.
The rise of Kylo Ren that explores that time period,
Yeah.
and there's some good things tied in there as well with Snoke. Expanding on that, I know a lot of people are upset they didn't get enough of that character, and there's some. Hey, sub dude, wish you could stay. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for visiting. We appreciate you stopping in to say hey. Um, I do think that there's we know Kathleen Kennedy stepped in it again last weekend, right? And she got in a lot of trouble over this interview she did. But part of what she said is in the live action series, there's an opportunity to um, have more character driven stories that do character development. And that's exactly what the novels give you, character
Yeah.
driven stories that do a character development. In the comics, in the novels, they're fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And Star Wars has this deep lore, and that's what we're hoping to kind of
But
uncover for somebody. Go ahead.
and I don't want to. The only thing though that makes me so where I think that's so hypocritical of her, and I'm
Yeah.
not a Kathleen Kennedy basher. You know what she eats doesn't make me poop. But my thought process is: listen, if we had that, so we had the character development of Luke Skywalker, and I know maybe some will disagree with me, but we had Luke Skywalker. He was completely fleshed out. We knew who this person was, and then who he turned out to be. In my opinion, was just not indicative of that person. It was not, especially somebody who's read, um, the EU. So I know the direction that Luke Skywalker was going. But
Yeah.
even if I take out all of the novelizations, right, and I just stop it dead at Return of the Jedi, when you go from there to there, it doesn't sit well for me. That
Oh,
doesn't, you know what I mean?
I
Like that
totally
just,
understand where you're coming from.
yeah,
100%. One of my best friends in real life, a guy that I go to church with and very close with, is a big Luke Skywalker guy, and uh, we've talked about this a lot. Um, and, he's a deputy sheriff in a county nearby, and uh, I don't argue with him too much, but he's a great guy. But
yeah,
and this is again, one of the things I wanted to do tonight is show that people with very, very, very different opinions about some Star Wars can still be very close friends and excited and
absolutely.
enjoy talking about Star Wars with one
And that's
another.
all it is. That's
It
all
really
it
is.
is.
It's frustrating. I saw that Star Wars Only did a brief video yesterday. I think it was yesterday, or the day before, about this new Twitter group called All Star Wars is Good. And is that helpful, or is it more like delineating the difference? And I tend to agree with him a little bit in his video about it being not helpful because here you and I don't agree eye to eye on everything, but we're still have a fantastic discussion this evening,
Yeah.
right? I've got a very close friend of mine, one of my best friends, who doesn't see eye to eye with me on things, but here we can come together as fans and enjoy the fandom together without dividing, right?
Yeah.
And we know there are people within the fandom who are absolutely horrible individuals, right? Who, if you don't agree with me, then your fandom is in question, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of gatekeeping that goes on,
Yeah.
right? Um, and
I just welcome the conversation because sometimes people can change your mind, you know, they just. I welcome the different perspectives because maybe they'll help me see something that I didn't see. So yeah, I love Star Wars for my reasons, but I also want to know why it is that you love it. You know, so
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I absolutely agree. I completely agree. And I'm not here to gatekeep anybody, right? I'm old enough to have seen the original Star Wars in the theater when I was 10 years old. It's the first movie I have recollection of, right? So I'm old enough to have been there for the release of every single movie, and I've been there for release of, and I own all the movies in multiple times.
yeah,
And I've read a lot of the EU. I have a game addiction issue,
yeah.
and I had to get rid of my consoles because I have a wife and children, and
Yes. So,
I had to make a decision, right, which was
yeah,
more important to me in my life. So I haven't played the games to the extent that a lot of folks have. So a lot of the EU that came in, or the lore that came in through the games, I don't have.
mm,
So from a gatekeeping perspective, now is my opinion, null and void, right? And that's kind of things that happen. And people say, well, wait, you just now started. Your favorite movie is The Last Jedi. Well, you don't have enough to understand, so you're not a real fan. Well, I don't think that's helpful. Uh, you
yeah,
know,
no,
if your only exposure was the sequel trilogy, if The Last Jedi is your favorite movie, well, good on you, right? Maybe there's a book you'd like to read. Maybe there's another novel you'd like to read. Maybe there's a video game you'd like to play, or a comic book you'd like to read, and you could get immersed in this lore, and we can help you along that journey. And there'll be things that you like and things you don't like along the way.
yeah,
And as you get there, you may find out that some of your opinion about other things have changed. So I want to raise this question. So Danny Orange asked, do you think Star Wars fans would hate it or love it if Sebastian Stan appeared as a post Return of the Jedi Luke? I'll let you answer that first. I have my own opinion too, but what do you
as
think?
a post Return of the Jedi Luke.
Yes, so in
Um,
between
so
Return of the
between that
Jedi,
30-year time period.
yeah,
Um, I I don't see why not. I don't. I mean, I think he may run into the same as what's his name that played Solo. He may run into that same kind of um, uh, criticism where people weren't necessarily a fan of seeing anybody other than Harrison Ford play um, Han Solo. But considering it would be a prequel to when we last saw Luke Skywalker, even though it is a sequel from the Return of the Jedi. But it would be a prequel because we're going back in time from when we last saw him in Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. So I wouldn't be so upset as long as they were true to his character during that time period.
um,
You,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, I do know what you mean, and I'm not opposed to it personally myself. I
Yeah.
fear for the fans though, because fans have a very strong imagery of Luke Skywalker. He walks very hallowed ground, and
Yeah, he's
um,
my favorite.
we have both the original trilogy Luke Skywalker and the sequel trilogy Luke Skywalker, portrayed by one actor. All right, and if you stick another actor in between, and I understand the resemblance and the acting ability is great, but if you stick another actor in between, there are going to be fans that reject it just on face of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
So
mean, I would absolutely agree. But I think that I would prefer to see him play that role than them try to CGI it.
right,
You know, that would be
that would
that would terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think he would run into the same criticism as, what is his name? Einrich?
Um, uh, uh,
Aldrin?
Aldrin Einrich or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as he did for Solo. And I actually didn't think he did a bad job as Solo. I
Oh,
thought he did a fairly decent job
yeah.
playing a young Han Solo.
I do too. I do too. He adopted a lot of the mannerisms, and when I watched Solo, by the end of it, he felt Han Solo to me. It took some
Yeah.
time. I certainly didn't buy it right off, but over time, I bought in.
And of
Um,
course, I would have loved to see Harrison, but
what are you gonna do? Yeah,
yeah, he couldn't. He can't play a young
no.
Han Solo.
For me personally, that time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is perfectly set up for an animated series, much like we had the Clone Wars animated series.
Yeah.
And we have fantastic voice actors today that can voice those, including Mark Hamill. So,
Yeah. See, I'm more interested, Santa, in seeing them go far further into the future.
yeah,
I just want to see them get away from the saga so that they can come up with uh, some new lore, so that we're not necessarily judging it by the saga. So we can say, listen, this is, they did a great job inventing this, or this is a great addition to the lore. That's why I'm pleased with the fact that we're getting the High Republic, because even though they're going backwards, I'm not pleased about that, but they're going 400 years before the Phantom Menace, and this is a rich time period where we're not touching the old Republic. Thankfully,
yeah,
the only person that we're going to be able to see or being is Yoda. He's the only one who will have existed during this time period. And there's a lot of exploration that can happen, especially with what they're, we know that the Sith, they exist during this time period. They're just hiding. The
right.
rule of two is in effect at this time period. So who are the two during this time period? Even though I know the villains are supposed to be the Niles, but there's a lot of sand that they can play with in this box. You know what I mean?
I do. And even though Anakin doesn't like sand, there's a lot of it there. I couldn't help myself. We're coming right up on 8 p.m. Eastern, and I know you only had about an hour to spend with me. I don't want to keep you too late. But I also worry about rehashing things that are already established in the EU.
Yeah.
And there are some beloved characters. You mentioned one earlier, Darth Bane. There's Revan. I keep seeing over and over again how people would love to see Revan. But I worry about that stuff.
Absolutely. I didn't even like the way they did Bane in the Clone Wars. When Yoda went to see him and he saw his ghost,
Yep.
I didn't like that. I didn't think that was necessary. I love Bane. Let's leave Bane in the in the old. That's 1,000 years ago. Let's leave Bane 1,000 years ago. I didn't think that they portrayed him, and I know it was just his ghost, but the way that he looked just wasn't Bane to me. And so with Revan, I loved Revan in KOTOR. I didn't like Revan so much in SWOTOR, because I don't think that they continued that story the way that story was looking like it was supposed to go. And I love SWOTOR, but I don't think that they handled Revan correctly in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And so for them to bring him to this new, the new canon, I like that they say that he existed, and that's all that I need.
Yeah.
Let him be canon, and now let's not touch him anymore.
For me personally, I would like to see KOTOR, SWOTOR. I like to see that era that's primarily exists in the game sphere, put in other formats so that I can consume it. And it was asked earlier, what games were I hooked on? For me, any game becomes something that I'm a completionist, and so like even playing like Donkey Kong, I won't stop because I missed I missed something. Or Mario, there's a mushroom somewhere that I got to go find, and I can get lost in that forever, and not get out. There were days where I went 2-3 days with no sleep because I stayed up overnight. Like I was in the U.S. Army, and I would be on duty during the day, come home, play all night long, and go back on duty the next day. Right? Like it was bad. So, but I would love to see this video game stuff brought into things I can consume. For me personally, that's just me being selfish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I understand who Revan is and why he's so beloved. And
Amen.
as much as I would like to see Keanu Reeves as Revan, like anybody else would, I don't think it's a smart play.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Unless they're going directly from the lore as it was established. Because remember, we get Bane, or we get the rule of two because of Revan's teachings. You know,
Yeah.
we get the rule of two because Bane found Revan's holocron, and it was through those teachings that we now have the rule of two, and so it's I mean it's just too much of a sticky situation.
Yeah, I agree. There's some traps there that people
Yeah.
can get caught in, and I agree with you 100% that what I would like to see them do is go forward. Let's go after the sequel trilogy. We've got the Skywalker saga closed, and let's leave it closed. I know there's some popular theories out there with Reylos to bring back Kylo Ren and get or Ben Solo. Reylos are Ben Solo and Rey. But
Bananas.
yeah, they well, yeah, but a lot of them would like to see that continue. And I know even like Josh Lucas at the Den of Nerds has this Rey's impregnated theory.
It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a neat idea.
Pretty cool.
The problem is it leaves open the possibility of continuing that saga.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see it. I want to see it left where it is, and let's open up a new saga. Let's have something else open up, and let's take this in the future and explore brand new characters in a brand new era,
Absolutely.
and have the fans without any EU stuff that can be divisive. And
Exactly.
the lore, you want to, and this is another topic that gets me in a lot of trouble in Discord servers, right? Is well, you don't know lore, and so then they start insulting me, and I get told all kinds of horrible things. But
I'm sorry.
well, it happens. It happens. But there are people on my side that are guilty too, right? But I can only say from my experience, I've been told to go kill myself and things like that, and it's terrible, right? It's absolutely terrible. But if we go forward and we stay with lore enough, right, we don't want to just create brand new superpowers, but we do want to have a world that we can explore. So I know we're going late. I don't want to.
That was my daughter was.
Oh, that's okay. I don't want to hold you too long.
No worries.
So I'll let you kind of wrap things up here. I don't want to drag on too much later. And I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is fantastic. I've wanted to get together and talk with you since I saw you on the Den of Nerds. And this is the type of discussion that I want to see between fans moving forward.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, like I said, I'm always open to having the conversation, because the one thing about the fandom that is so great is the fact that we have those discussions, and even sometimes when they get heated, it's if at the end of it, that's just passion, and passion is just represents your love for the art. So I'm awesome as far as openness is concerned. I'm open to having those conversations, and I welcome all different kinds of perspectives and all different kinds of points of view.
Yeah. Well, folks, we still have a good number of folks with us here tonight. I want to thank all of you so much for being here. I've got a very small channel, and Lord Callous, I appreciate you taking time to spend it with a little guy like me, and talk about something we love so much. And for all of you here, I know you're here for the same reasons. You love Star Wars, And whether you're coming here because you're a fan of Lord Callous and want to see him talk more about Star Wars, or you're here to who this Santa guy is. Look, this is not something fake, right? The beard's real. I am a Santa Claus. I do this professionally, and I meet with kids as Santa Claus every year. It's something I've done for a long time, much longer than I've been on YouTube. So this isn't just a little what do you call it? I'm not playing it up.
You're not cosplaying.
No, I'm not. This is what I am, and I wear this every day, and this is me every day. So I have I'm not going to share it here, but people call me by my name. I don't pretend to be Santa Claus amongst friends, but they know that's who I am and what I do. But look, I so much appreciate you all being here tonight. If you, I put links in here to Lord Callous's YouTube channel, his Twitter account, and my Twitter as well. If you would be so kind to like the stream, share it with somebody. Let them know that there are Star Wars fans out here on the opposite sides of issues that can get along. We would very much appreciate it. We want to see this fandom grow and get healthy. And really, thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.